Chapter 1 of The Belton Estate. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Kirsten, Wever. The Belton Estate by Anthony Trollope. Chapter 1. The Remnants of the Amedroz Family. Mrs. Amedroz, the wife of Bernard Amedroz, Esquire, of Belton Castle, and mother of Charles and Clara Amedroz, died when those children were only 8 and 6 years old, thereby subjecting them to the greatest misfortune which children born in that sphere of life can be made to suffer. And in the case of this boy and girl, the misfortune was aggravated greatly by the peculiarities of the father's character. Mr. Amedroz was not a bad man, as men are held to be bad in the world's esteem. He was not vicious, was not a gambler or a drunkard, was not self-indulgent to a degree that brought upon him any reproach, nor was he regardless of his children. But he was an idle, thriftless man, who, at the age of 67, when the reader will first make his acquaintance, had as yet done no good in the world whatever. Indeed, he had done terrible evil, for his son Charles was now dead, had perished by his own hand, and the state of things which had brought about this woeful event had been chiefly due to the father's neglect. Belton Castle is a pretty country seat, standing in a small but beautifully wooded park, close under the Quantock Hills in Somersetshire, and the little town of Belton clusters round the park gates. Few Englishmen know the scenery of England well, and the prettinesses of Somersetshire are among those which are the least known. But the Quantock Hills are very lovely, with their rich valleys lying close among them, and their outlying moorlands running off towards Dulverton and the borders of Devonshire, moorlands which are not flat like Salisbury Plain, but are broken into ravines and deep watercourses and rugged dells hither and thither, where old oaks are standing, in which life seems to have dwindled down to the last spark, but the last spark is still there, and the old oaks give forth their scanty leaves from year to year. In among the hills, somewhat off the high road from Minehead to Taunton, and about 5 miles from the sea, stands the little town or village of Belton, and the modern house of Mr. Amedroz, which is called Belton Castle. The village, for it is in truth no more, though it still maintains a charter for a market, and there still exists on Tuesdays some pretence of an open sale of grain and butcher's meat in the square before the church gate, contains about 2,000 persons. That and the whole parish of Belton did once, and that not long ago, belong to the Amedroz family. They had inherited it from the Beltons of old, an Amedroz having married the heiress of the family. And as the parish is large, stretching away to Exmoor on one side, and almost to the sea on the other, containing the hamlet of Redicote, lying on the Taunton high road, Redicote, where the post office is placed, a town almost in itself, and one which is now more prosperous than Belton. As the property when it first came to Amedroz had limits such as these, the family had been considerable in the county. But these limits had been straitened in the days of the grandfather and the father of Bernard Amedroz, and he, when he married a Miss Winterfield of Taunton, was thought to have done very well, in that mortgages were paid off the property with his wife's money to such an extent as to leave him in clear possession of an estate that gave him 2,000 a year. As Mr. Amedroz had no grand neighbours near him, as the place is remote and the living therefore cheap, and as with this income there was no question of annual visits to London, Mr. and Mrs. Amedroz might have done very well, with such of the good things of the world as had fallen to their lot. And had the wife lived, such would probably have been the case, for the Winterfields were known to be prudent people. But Mrs. Amedroz had died young, and things with Bernard Amedroz had gone badly. And yet the evil had not been so much with him as with that terrible boy of his. The father had been nearly 40 when he married. He had then never done any good, but as neither had he done much harm, the friends of the family had argued
Sample complete. Ready to continue?